Hi, hello. This video is kind of a hot mess. I had zero plan about what I was gonna do this week. In fact, I was gonna do what I did most weeks and was just like, gonna take a break. I've finished all of the introduction for river chasing. I can relax. I can kind of step back now. Wrong. I did another video before I was going to do all of my big deep dive into lore. I had gotten it into my head that, hey, maybe I should do some designs for characters that I wanted to draw more often. That being Wave, but I already had her design kind of settled. Goose, who is Minnow Spiral's son and someone that Wave, when she becomes Wavetail, starts to train as her novice. And finally, Waspclaw, my guy, the guy that I've added and obsessed over in the plot because I forgot he existed, and then I was reminded of all the story potential. So, to do that, I sat down and I started doing some designs, and that's basically the whole gist of this video, is that it was me designing. There's also some missing footage because I forgot to record, like at the very end. I didn't show any of my process. And yeah, that's about all I have to say with what's happening in the video. And I think the rest of the time I'm going to talk about river chasing itself and maybe what I'm going to do for other videos, because I recently enough rediscovered a really bad story I wrote for Warrior Cats OCs like 7 years ago, and it's actually plot-wise pretty interesting. It's just very poorly written. So after reading it, I went, wow, this is pretty good, and then I rewrote it. And I'm at like 13,000 words in comparison to the whatever nonsense it was when I had written it many years ago. And it's just been kind of a comfort project. I might want to do a video on that because it was really bad when I first wrote it, but I liked the plot. Interestingly enough, I think that it actually had potential to do something interesting, so I'll probably do a video on that. Also, for river chasing, I want to work my way up to like an I spoil video about the first part of it, and hopefully the rest of the series too, but just the first part. And I would also like to do videos about the writing process behind these characters and why they act certain ways, and all of that good stuff, but that takes a while. So yeah, sorry if I don't have much to say. This is completely unscripted. I just sat down and went, maybe I should record some audio for this video, and I didn't really think about what I was gonna say. Maybe another thing is I kind of want to branch away from like cats eventually. Not saying that like, oh, I hate warrior cats, I'm done with warrior cats, I'm done with like cat OCs. I love cats. It's some of my favorite. I like the creativity that you can use in Warrior Cats universe and such like that, but I want to I have human OCs as well, and like wolf OCs and stuff, and I eventually would love to do that. I would also love to one day, if I can get my friends to actually all get together in one spot, I would love to record a D&D campaign and do stuff for that. So those are the hopes eventually. Yeah, I want to let's talk about Waspclaw for a minute. I really like Waspclaw. He went from being a background character I knew nothing about to probably one of my favorite side characters. Because he's in the supporting cast, obviously, but he's very enjoyable, and I think that as I've started to develop him more, he's kind of been a part of this perfect interpretation of what Fishfang thinks that Wave should have her life be like, because Wave and Waspclaw have always been, friends. He's a little bit older than her and her sister, not by a whole lot, but he's like a couple months, maybe like 2 or 3, and she is shown to be friends with him during the process of the story. Particularly it starts to, when she stops hanging out with Plum, who I consider to be like her best friend in the colony, she starts to hang around Waspclaw. And I think that happens at the turn of where it's like, oh, I'm, still a novice, versus, okay, I'm going to become a dweller, like, super soon now. So she starts hanging out with the more matured Waspclaw instead of Plum, who is just becoming a novice and is like a baby still. And Wave actually takes a lot of parental role with the kits in the colony too. That is, I find it very interesting that she kind of has this friendship and relationship with them, and because Sage Leaf isn't like a hard mentor or anything like that, she allows a lot of that space for Wave in particular to be like, hey, I want to spend some time helping, these nameless, confused little kits just get their bearings in life. And that kind of becomes her interest and relationship with the colony, and it's very sweet to me. I very much love her relationship with Goose as well, because obviously, as I said, Minnow Spiral's son. Goose is very different from his father in a lot of obvious ways, personality-wise. Like, he looks like a small version of his father, with maybe some patterns different. But, sorry, what is honking going outside? But he starts to have this relationship with Wave, because Wave seems to notice that, like, oh, he's the youngest of the kits, he's the most upset when it comes to, like, water. He wants it to stay winter forever so he doesn't have to learn how to swim. Like, very, very innocent, but also highly stressed out little kid. And Wave, relates to that pretty heavily, and she hangs around him. Fishfang sees this and goes, Minnow Spiral might not be here because he leaves at a certain point, but we're going to have you take care of, his son as like an act, like a good gesture, because it seems like you guys are really close, and I'm gonna seem like a cool mom if I do this, giving my daughter, who's just turned, who's like just earned her dweller name, into being like a mentor. And I mean, it's one of the better decisions that Fishbane has made. It's not like the worst. It definitely does, though, create sort of a downfall in the relationship of Fishfang with her daughter and with Goose to his father, because Wavetail doesn't care about she's not affected that much by all of the, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not thinking of the word. But what I'm trying to say is that she's not, like, impressed by her mother being, the matriarch and being, kind of abusive and charismatic and all of that. She's not influenced as much as, like, her sister would be. So she kind of teaches those things to Goose and teaches him independence and lets him learn that, hey, maybe our parents aren't like the best people around, and that you can be independent from them and you can be, your own person. And Goose very much takes all of this to heart, especially when it seems that Wavetail, she's kind of the only person who sees him not for his father, because everyone in the colony, like, can't necessarily separate him from his father because he looks like a smaller version of his father, and that, like, no one wants to piss him off. No one wants to, like, push him too hard or frustrate him because they think that, like, Minnow Spiral is gonna come cut their throat out or something like that. But then you have Wavetail, who doesn't care about that. She doesn't care about Minnow Spiral, and she's going to do what she thinks is best for teaching him, which might be going at a slower pace. But, so sorry, yawning. But letting him have a little bit of a push in the right direction. And that's kind of what that's kind of what their story about is, like, independence with each other, and that, like, hey, family is wrong sometimes, and that's okay, and that's kind of like I'm rambling at this point. I'm sorry. I like Wavetail and Goose's relationship. I think it's very wholesome. I think that she's very protective over him. I think that she thinks of him as, like, a little brother and wants to protect him at all cost. I'm so tired. I'm sorry. I can't stop yawning. Waspclaw is kind of the same relationship, but with him thinking that, like, Wave is his younger sister. And, like, his family in the colony has passed. Like, it's pretty much just him. And he relates really heavily to her struggle. And he wants, like, he's very protective of her. And kind of, when there is this, like, underlying mystery of a large creature is eating all of the it's like killing prey and mangling it, and the colony is kind of like colony is really like brushing it over. Let's see if I can find any points in particular, because it's like they don't seem to care very much. Right, so the Fish Fang is out with Wave and Minnow Spiral. They're on a patrol. They're kind of talking about, hey, how she should do hunting soon, and they find two patrols that are paired up, that found a squirrel that is just ripped apart. Lilytail, the moderator who was also there, explains that like they found a patrol, his patrol found the carcass, and a hunting party soon came, and they didn't kill it, and that the claw marks on this are way too large for even the largest cat they know, Bramblepelt, and he would have to come all the way from Sky Colony, and this is nowhere near Sky Colony, and Fish Fang just tells them, hey, bury it, forget it happened. Half of the colony is here. Like, let's count the number of cats here for a moment. There's Fish Fang, Wave, Minnow Spiral, Oakleg, Cindercloud, Waspclaw, Lilytail, Acornflank, Daisyberry, and Scale. That's 10 cats. That is a third of the colony sees this happen, hears, hey, just cover it over, forget it happened. And the reason that nothing happens about this is because every single person here, except Wave and Waspclaw and maybe a little bit of Daisyberry, isn't like is Fish Fang's supporter. They're all like ride or die. Especially Lilytail and Minnow Spiral, who are like, yep, well, just let's talk about this now and let's bury this over, and this never happened. And Waspclaw at this moment and Wave kind of like meet up and they talk, and this is where like once it becomes more serious and like adult things are happening, like this is clearly something that novices shouldn't be involved in. She starts latching on to her relationship with Waspclaw, and they talk about like there was an odd scent, what happened, and Cindercloud, Wave's father, like shuts that down immediately. He's like, there's no like foxes or badgers in the area, they didn't smell anything. It gets buried, and Fish Fang is like, okay, Waspclaw and Wave, the two who are acting most suspicious about the situation, get on out of here, go catch some prey. Waspclaw is concerned, and so is Wave, but they have to just brush it off, and specifically Waspclaw is like, hey, I'm just not convinced that this is going to be less dangerous than Fish Fang seems to be talking about. And Wave is still kind of like that naive innocence where she's like, I think my mom's got it handled. No, she doesn't. A couple chapters later, the Wave is with all the kits just outside of camp. They're on an island, so it's not like you can notice when the kits run away from the island instead of just stepping off of like at a camp. So she's sitting there with them watching the cats look at the lake as it unfreezes. She's doing this so that the kits can be like introduced to the lake and they're all like spooked. Specifically Goose is deathly afraid of water. And one of the guardians, that's the word, comes in and is like, okay, everyone go back inside the camp, except Wave, she stays out there. And as she sits out there, she's kind of hiding in some bushes, and she overhears Fish Fang, Lilytail, Acorn Flake, and Scale, Scale being her sister, and Acorn Flake being Scale's mentor. She overhears them discussing that there are 3 more pieces of mangled prey, and that Lilytail is now like, we should investigate this. And Fish Fang is like, absolutely. And I want to make Scale a part of that patrol. Which means that she is speeding up really quickly how fast she's going to make her daughters into dwellers, which is, as was told in another chapter, the same thing that she did before when they were becoming novices. Like, she wanted to speed that up quicker too. So the relationship between like this adult plot of like, hey, you can't ignore the fact that like there are things that you can't be naive to anymore. Like, the kids aren't going to know. Like, Goose in particular is just gonna know, hey, my dad is going out on this patrol and he'll be gone for a while. And Wave, who at that point would be Wavetail, is not under the same impression anymore. She's very much like, they're probably going to die. They're going out to fight something, to look for something, and they might not be coming back. And that's kind of, she's much more adult about it, which is a bit upsetting, because, you know, the destruction of the, you know, innocent childlike mind, but very much so, part of her story in Waspclaw very much is that, step away from, you know, childlike innocence, and her relationship with him has to do with her becoming and fitting more into an adult perspective. And Waspclaw is a character that I could see why you would ship him with Wave, because they're very close and they have a very, their relationship is very important to the whole Lake Colony side of the story, but she's very much not interested, and he knows that. Like, there's a moment where they're at one of the gatherings together, and she talks to Ember, who is her love interest, and was like really embarrassed and like happy to be talking to him. And then Waspclaw is like, well, isn't he handsome, or something like that. Like, he's not jealous about Wavetail not being interested because he's not interested, and that's what I like about him, is that he seems like he'd be a love interest, but he's not. He's just kind of a respectful guy. In fact, I think I talked about it a little bit, but I think he's more connected to Rabbit Leap. Anyways, talk to you in another video. I have no idea what I'm doing next week, but we'll figure it out. Bye!